It's part 17 of the Maratha Confederacy Abridged. In the previous part we started to make some progress with our invasion of India, taking a few key territories, although avoiding any real decisive battle. We've still got major armies from Mysore and the Mughal Empire to deal with. We did at least win some naval battles, allowing us to take out some of Mysore's incoming reinforcements. And then after this, I nearly engaged in a decisive battle because I tried to move west out of Hyderabad. And there was this battle right here, a 5-on-5 stack conflict. There was more stuff to the left of the screen than I realised. So this was a nice decisive showdown, but I didn't want to actually do it because like 3 of our armies, or maybe even 4 there, are just elephants who aren't very useful for the manual resolve. So I ended up just doing nothing, and the standoff will continue. Then in the next turn, the enemy had basically just spread out. Their armies just walked off all over the place, both in the north and the south. And this left open some avenues for us to just go and attack their settlements. This is precisely what we're waiting for. Again, we're suffering here from the fact that an all-elephant stack is not allowed to attack a fortified settlement, so I need to get some infantry in there. That was me attempting to get infantry in. Yes, I moved some cav. Not a very good attempt to get infantry, but after a second try, I correctly identified the species of what I'm clicking on, and were able to bring up this screen. I was happy to see that nothing nearby is in reinforcement range, so I thought we might be okay to bring over some more stuff and just like auto-resolve the fort attack. Unfortunately, it still wasn't that good. We end up with this situation. I've got 3 stacks of elephants, which get a balance bar advantage. I think I probably should have tried to auto-resolve that. But I decided to wait because I knew I could bring over some artillery in the next turn. And I thought that will give me a nicer auto-resolve. It might just kill me if I do it with no actual fort attacking units in the army. So the siege continues. And then we're going to do something quite similar with our old capital, because again the 5 stacks of Mughal Empire troops that were blocking us from getting here have all walked off in various directions. So that means we can set up an easier looking siege. We're going to bring over most of my 5 armies of stuff, leaving 2 behind, because the Mughal Empire are still all over the place and they might try and counterattack if we leave any location undefended. So here we are now at the start of the next turn actually, because nothing happened. The enemy just moved around a bit during their turn, but their movements did cause a couple of extra stacks to be in reinforcement range of Mysore's capital. Strangely, the balance bar was very similar to how it was before after that. Anyway, the first thing I did was attack this small group of troops that were right next to the settlement. We can take them out with a nice, not particularly good auto-resolve. Then I figured this is probably enough to finish everything off. We've got a pretty big balance bar advantage. However, we get absolutely annihilated in the auto-resolve. I was not happy with that, so I just save scummed. I went back to my safety save and we just didn't attack the settlement instead. Going to straight up cheat my way through that one. What I did do is move out to just attack some of the nearby armies to clear out some of the stuff. We faced this battle, a nice advantageous battle, and another one of these cases where auto-resolving is a great idea because it keeps all of the elephants alive. So we drive some stuff away and then just leave the siege going. Up north you can see there's a big crowd queuing up outside Hyderabad, so potential for attack there. But all of that stuff being there means it's not over to the west where the real action is. I was considering trying to break through them with an army, but we don't really need to put another army over here. We can just combine everything together and take a look at this siege attack. That balance bar's very good, so this time I thought maybe we can get away with the auto-resolve. Obviously I don't trust it enough to not save in case I wanted to scum again. Actually, the result was fine. So there we go, we've taken back our old capital. That's going to be a key propaganda victory. It also kind of cuts off the north of India from the south. We've got a continuous line of territory between Mysore and the Mughal Empire. So that's all looking good. We can move out right after this to take out the small army that's in the docks nearby just to further secure this area. But we are going to ignore the 5 armies standing off to the right. Really looking for a defensive battle against them since our stuff's spread out and we have so many kind of meme armies with the elephants. Don't want to do anything too risky against them. However, so much time has passed in the campaign now that my other attack on India is starting to come through. The guys who were just walking it from Europe are finally arriving right at the top left-hand corner. Could auto-resolve that attack, but I thought there's no rush. We'll wait for more stuff to catch up and then do it. So that's going to change the dynamic in the theatre. And I also decided to open up another front I've recruited some stuff on Ceylon and thought I'm going to send them over to the top right to cause a kerfuffle up there, because this way we're going to distract the AI's attention and probably cause them to not have like 10 stacks attacking us down south, which will make things nice and easy for us later. That's the plan, and Calcutta here looks like the perfect target because it has no actual garrison. It has a gigantic spawned garrison of trash, big enough we can't just step in. We probably could win this with a manual resolve, but I just didn't feel like doing it. Then they sallied, so we're going to be forced to do it just as a defensive battle. That means we don't actually get the settlement if we win, but it's also a bit easier because we can make the battle take place out of the range of their mortars. You know what the mortar crews think about that? One of the crews charges forwards and gets annihilated. The other crew does stay behind. But I also sent some cav to go all the way around the battlefield to take them out early because they are the enemy's captain, so it's best to kill them before the fight starts. We do get mortared on the way and we nearly lose these cav to routing. Luckily they make it and we can take out these mortars with impunity, and that'll be that. Then we're in a perfect position to go rear attack stuff. Although we don't really need rear attacks, this is going to be a battle where we're fighting such trash that the simple sweep forwards is all we need, and that's the most glorious setup really. You can see the enemy turning their flanks to get charged extra hard as we arrive at their lines, and stuff just routes as we engage. This is the optimum scenario. Everything routes on contact and then dies because of it, since they can't fight back. Here's a less good scenario where our slow humans are charging forwards and we eat a couple of volleys of musket fire to the face there. Luckily we hang on and finish the job, and there I'm charging some infantry into a cav fight. That's going to get my own infantry killed because of the cav charging thing. That'll be good. And this looks like the final unengaged enemy unit getting taken down. Basically this battle is over as soon as it begins because half the army routes on contact and the other half is going to get surrounded and routed soon. Here is the result. We lost pretty much nothing. The enemy lost pretty much everything. Then the Mughal Empire have another blunder for us. It started off looking pretty good. They send an army on a couple of ships to go to Ceylon and land in our ports, but for whatever reason they don't actually attack Ceylon, they just put the ships and the army in the port. So not sure why they didn't follow through with that one. We would have been screwed if they actually went for it. Thanks for not doing it, I guess. And then we face this battle from Mysore. They are going to commit to an attack on our forts here with 2 stacks. We have 1 stack on the inside, and this stack has most of the infantry. It's deliberately set up to be the stack that's most suitable for defending a fort. So it's good that we ended up fighting this one of all the possible fort battles that could have happened recently. These Amazons are quite good because they can deploy anti-cav spikes, and we can just put those in front of all the gates. That means any of our cav outside that need to come back inside don't need to worry too much about being pursued by enemy cav, because they'll die if they try to follow us into the fort. To start the battle, I'm going to show off some of the frustrations of actually fighting in a fort. You can see me here trying to get my men to just shoot over the wall, basically. I wanted to fire at those horse archers who were charging at the fort, but whatever system of orders I gave there, the result was that our men formed up in single file facing into the fort. Not quite sure what's happening. After I give an order to attack, they mostly stay where they are, but a few of them move forward to use the guns. That's something, but I wanted them to just shoot with their muskets. We lose about 50 guys to the arrows that are being rained down on us while we try to do these maneuvers. Overall, not impressed. The level of jank in fort battles is always through the roof, but even the very basics don't really work. Pretty good. I keep trying because I feel like we can get it going eventually, and those elephants in the background almost run through the spikes I've put down. They stop just in front of them. Not sure if it was a coincidence or if the AI actually knows to not run over the spikes. They do end up kind of sitting in front of them as if they wanted to go past them. And after a long time, we convince the troops on the wall to fire, and once they do, a massive volley immediately kills most of the elephants. Their general in there is dead as well. I think that's not their commanding general though. Anyway, that's them gone. We accidentally defeated a unit off to the left while I wasn't paying attention, and these cav are now going to be deployed to go towards the bottom right hand corner of the map. That's where their reinforcement stack is coming onto the field. So I figured while their main stack isn't really doing anything, I can at least attack units one by one as they come in and try to damage that second stack with these cav units. That goes well enough to start with. You can see their first stack has committed a couple of units to attack the fort, I'm trying to arrange to get my swords up at the relevant points on the wall to stop them. Overall though, they're not that interested in attacking, almost as uninterested as my men are in firing at them. Now at the back, while I was distracted, things are starting to get a little bit more messy here. Obviously more and more stuff's going to keep coming onto the field, so defeating an entire army with just these 3 units of cav is a bit dangerous, but doing it one at a time makes it less dangerous. However, you can see one of the enemy cav units actually defeated mine. It was a gun cav unit firing at point blank range. So that's going to thin us out, and really this isn't going to be an ideal setup. But being saved here by the fact that while I try to defeat the enemy cav, the next unit in the reinforcement queue is glitching out, and that's stopping most of the army coming onto the field. This buys me more time to win that cav engagement, get out of the way, and then start cyclo-charging again as units come in one by one. Meanwhile, in the fort, the battle is happening. We're not fighting very much stuff, so it's really just a fight on that corner, and I'm using my garrison swords to fight, which is perfect because they'll be pretty good in melee, and they just die after the battle anyway, so their casualties are irrelevant. Looks like these trash here are in trouble as we plow into them, but they're being rapidly supported since more stuff is just spawning behind them from reinforcements. And it was at this point I decided to actually pull out of this reinforcement raiding thing and just allow them to link up their armies. You can see their first army is still not really doing anything, mostly standing where they deployed. And it started to dawn on me that this battle is going to be one of those goes to the end of the time limit kinds of battles, because the AI isn't going to commit to making any serious attacks. Here I am trying to set my cav up, ready to be behind the enemy in case they ever move, because I do want to go for their artillery pieces and stuff. They are actually moving, by the way, as confirmed by this close inspection. They're just moving at a literal snail's pace. They are the least enthusiastic assault force ever, gradually shuffling forward through the mud. So the question is, will they arrive and engage our army before the time limit runs out? It would be nice if they did, because I feel like we'd kill more of them than we'd lose. So if they just don't fight us, it's just kind of a missed chance to actually defeat some enemy units. Here's me getting taken by surprise when the force I had set up to rear attack their first stack is now getting rear attacked by the second stack. It's kind of like I forgot the second army was coming onto the field. I just set up as if they weren't there anymore. I think what happened is they stopped coming on for a while because there were too many units on the battlefield, and I just sort of thought maybe we've killed them all, not remembering it was a full stack coming on. And then once something routed somewhere, or finally finished routing, leaving the map, more stuff showed up. So my reaction was to turn around and charge at them. These cav units are not in ideal condition, but luckily these musketeers were far below their full unit size, so the charge takes out a large proportion of their unit, meaning they're on very low morale once the melee starts, and now we just sort of hope to take them out. Their morale keeps going between shaken and wavering because their casualties per second rate is changing, and that's a separate morale buff to casualties sustained overall. Anyway, we do eventually take them down, and then I really do get out of there and stop challenging that second army. Here we are a bit later. I'm still wrangling up on the wall. You can see troops like to be in position for a while and then move away, so I'm constantly resetting the formation and getting our guys to go back onto the wall. There on the left you can see an example of that. Our troops just suddenly start sprinting away from their formation with no warning. In this case they sprint right back, so that's handy. And this is the stage in the battle when things started to actually happen. We've gone through 3/4 of the fight with not much happening, but finally the first army, now supplemented by many units of the second army that I let pass, is making an attack. Looks like their morale isn't that good because some small arms fire is enough to rout some of their units, meaning this is probably going to go well. Seeing the enemy committing to the fight, I started deploying my cav ready to make the attack I wanted to do against their artillery and their general's elephants at the back. As for the fight at the fort, it's going to be a pretty big grind. We're going to take plenty of casualties holding the wall, but still should be a decent enough trade if we can mostly use our swordsmen for that. As for the attack on the elephants and artillery, it's a mixed bag. We do get in there and can take out the artillery, but because the elephants shot at us on the way in, our morale is low and one of the cav units here routs. Then we're just going to surround and try to chip away at the elephants. It's kind of hard to kill them, but they're an easy enough unit to rout, and we do rout them and kill their general in that fight. which will help us out with our frontline engagement at the fort, which appears to be going okay. The enemy kind of climbing up, getting shot a few times, and then going back down. Very kind of them to present themselves for death. I'm sure we're getting some extra kills because of that. But yes, there'll be some nice grindy blobs where we're going to take a whole bunch of casualties there. This is a bad fight at the back where our Amazons are in melee against the enemy's musketeers. I'm sure the enemy have better melee stats than us, and they certainly have numbers. So that'll be a bad one, but overall, their stuff's going downtown, especially once our cav come back and start rear attacking the blobs. The enemy's morale's already going to be low, so a few cav attacks should be enough to finish them off. We have lost quite a bit of our cav by this point in the battle, but we've got enough to do the business. Now we're going to pursue the enemy off the field and grab as many kills as we can, but that didn't go all that well because the fight suddenly ended once everything routed. I didn't actually get the chance to pursue all of the final units and finish them off, meaning we don't get the total destruction of the enemy army that I was going for. We still bagged 4,000 kills with 1,000 losses, but a couple of hundred of those will be garrison units that don't count, and of course we can instantly rebuy everything. Overall then, we've taken a big chunk out of Mysore's strength in that defensive battle. It's probably only about half of their total army, but that's a half they're going to sorely miss. Now we're going to outnumber them in this area. We now need to capitalise on our win at Calcutta. Figured we could come in and just hit the auto-resolve. But another stack has come in to get involved. It's a stack of real troops this time, so yes, would have been better to make the attack as soon as we got here because things have gotten harder after our win. Looks like that army is actually pretty far away, so the mystery of how close you need to be to something to reinforce it continues. They're multiple zones of control away, but they're getting involved. Or maybe it's just in the fog of war and I can't see them or something. Anyway, one place where we can do an auto-resolve is with our attack in the northwest as two armies come in to take this not particularly important province, but it's starting up a new front. This is going to distract the AI and make them think about what's going on over here. And if they don't come over here, well, there's more stuff for us to advance and take. Now it's just a matter of time before the Mughal Empire is in enormous trouble unless they can strike back at us soon. At Mysore, there are still armies all over the place, including most of the Mughal Empire stuff, and I'm perfectly happy to just sit here and do nothing because I'm gradually gaining more troops. The enemy are gradually running out of time on the siege, and I can just keep waiting until a nice moment to attack comes along if they don't want to attack me. This is the point in the campaign when I remembered you can change the tax levels in this game, so I decided it's time to make some more money because we are actually not making enough money at the moment because I'm taking so many casualties in auto-resolves and having to constantly buy back the troops, especially the expensive elephants. So we are going to tax the rich. We're going to forcibly levy their personal elephants for military service. I think it's about time we got to oppressing the rich. We spent a lot of time oppressing the poor and denying the poor human rights and stuff, so we can at least charge the rich for the privilege. Now that said, I do want to make one actual attack this turn, and that was here at Goa. This is a bit of a risk because I have to leave stuff behind to defend Bijapur, and it gets to the point when all of our armies are split up defending all of our territories, and if the enemy really wanted to, they could go and make a 5-stack attack on one place and take us downtown, and Goa is unfortified. So this is a very risky place to set up, but as you can see I went ahead with the risk anyway, and we'll just see how the enemy react. Here is the Mughal Empire turn. It looks like they're moving forces towards Hyderabad. We have the chance to intercept here, but we're just not going to take that because again we want to wait for the enemy to attack our forts if we're going to fight them here. And no attack from the Mughal Empire comes, so we're safe for this turn. But Mysore actually catch me off guard with their navy here. I didn't really realise they have quite a few ships built up on their coast, and they're able to outgun the small fleet I have nearby blockading one of their ports. I'm forced to take a defeat because we're not allowed to retreat. I'm guessing because it's a blockade battle, we were caught by surprise or something. Then they pursue us and fight us again, and I'm just going to take the loss. So we are losing some water control here, but is it too late? We don't necessarily need the water control because we're starting to recruit so much stuff in India itself. And as for Mysore, they're now in trouble because after the Mughal Empire's random moves, it so happened that now only one army is in reinforcement range of their city, so we can triple team them and then quadruple team the city. The balance bar is pretty good, and this time it decides to be nice to me and says that I will win this battle. We take heavy losses, but that's pretty fair, I think. Attacking a city with mostly just elephants would incur heavy losses. And with that swift move, Mysore are out of the game, and we are one step closer to securing India. Most of our original homeland, our original territory, or all of it I think in fact, is now under our control. We still haven't actually had a showdown with the Mughals, and they still have tons of armies all over our territory, so it's not exactly secure, but we're definitely approaching the victory point here, and I think next time is going to be the final episode in this part. I strongly suspect that if we can get things over and done with, we can bring the Mughals to their knees in just a few more turns, and either actually win by taking them out and getting the victory regions, or getting to the point when we will win and I just can't be bothered to actually do it. Which is also where I'll stop the campaign. So yes, join me next time for the final chapter of the Reverse Raj, including an extra Reverse Raj phase campaign.